Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. Wearing a very lovely T-shirt there, apparently coming to us live from the Wynn Casino, folks. Andy, how's it going?
Yeah, it has birds on it. That helps me to remind me of some of these mascots I'll forget today, but it's going great. We're finally on Friday here. We have a pretty good show, I think. Normal, the normal basketball picks that we always go through, but we have finally there wild card weekend, as I kind of teased in the comments and a few other places. First touchdown scorer props are up for every game. Check your outs, but it seems like these are up everywhere. So very fun. If you don't want to get in, we'll say this in and out, like some of these lines are tight. Some of these markets are shaped. It might be a little too late if you want to bet the Steelers. It might be a little too late if you want to bet the Saints, but these markets are up. There's plenty of props. I have some props I want to talk about too. So further ado, let's hit basketball before we get into our football stuff.
We'll start with the association today, and two picks for me, and I'm going back to the well with some of these unders. We're going to start here with Charlotte and New Orleans, two teams that have been two of the slower teams in the NBA. They've really struggled to score, have played solid defense. As I start to look at a lot of my numbers here, I make this total closer to 212, almost 213. So a nice little edge here for me from an under perspective. As I start to look at the matchup again, I'm expecting it to kind of be a slow plotting game here. New Orleans has a lot of big guys that they can throw at Charlotte, and I think they're going to try to really attack them down low, which usually leads to longer possessions. Charlotte, continues to kind of struggle to score and figure out what they're going to do there. I think that Brandon Ingram and some of the players on the Pelicans are actually going to be nice matchups here for Gordon Hayward and some of those guys. So I think, again, there's just a lot of things working here on top of what I'm seeing in my numbers. So happy to jump in here. Another under 218 for Charlotte. New Orleans would play this down to 217, no lower than that. One more, Clippers and Golden State. This is another example of teams playing two games in a row here. This closed at 231 the previous game and went under by about, I think, 14, 15 points. Opens up here at 232.5. I was really curious about that adjustment. There's also been some whispers that Steph Curry might not play tonight. So, again, as I start to look at all my numbers, looks like a nice under spot here. Again, not even just looking at the last game, but looking at the way these two teams have played, especially with the addition of Draymond Green. I think you're going to see Golden State scores start to come down a little bit, not only because the offense will be a little slower, but the defense is going to be better. So, looking at where this closed last time, look at the game that we saw and some of the adjustments that I'm making for these players. And I think this is a great spot for an under tonight, especially if we do, again, kind of fingers crossed that Steph Curry maybe takes the night off here, and I think we'll be in a great spot. So happy to take under 232.5 here. Would play this down to 231. If Steph Curry's out, any number, probably down to 228 even at that point, but they'll probably drop much lower than that if that news comes out.
I dig it. And yeah, Mudhole. Where is he? I got to put Mudhole on the screen here. Michigan. Michigan is literally the next state they'll be in, which I guess you might live way down in south of Indiana. But WinBet will be coming to Michigan very next. That is in the works right now. So hopefully getting to I was going to say a casino near you, but you won't need that. It should be all mobile sign up no matter where you're at. College basketball, back on track last night. Hopefully you get the best of the number on Eastern Kentucky, the Colonials. They covered in overtime. Some people did get some 2.5s. I got some 3.5, and 2.5. So I kind of pushed, I guess. I lost a little bit of juice there. But the other two, straight up outright winners is dogs. I won't get too in-depth on any of these picks because, again, a lot of it is just model. My model likes these. I go do some due diligence, double-check it. I don't have a ton to say for the most part. But my South Alabama Jaguars +5. This is not only this. These are ones I bet this morning. These are numbers you can still get. I literally just checked these like 10 minutes ago. You should still be able to get a 5 on this. I don't think any of these have really moved, which is, I guess, good for you, bad for me. I'd rather see them move a bunch. But the South Alabama Jaguars, the Long Beach State, I should save this one because this is actually the one I actually want to talk about. I have no idea what their mascot is. I think it was the 49ers, but they called the baseball team the Dirtbags, but they changed it to the Sharks maybe because they get shown on Shark Week. But if you go on KenPom, if you go on KenPom, they call them the Beach. So they have like 4 nicknames. I'm not sure what they are. If somebody wants to let me know, but either way, Long Beach State. They're +1 most places. I know there's some places that won't give you a money line on this, but don't pay 5 cents for +1. Just take the straight up money line. That's what I did here. I'm more than fine even selling this out to -1 if you have a book that lets you do that. And this one is the one I feel the grossest about. Nebraska Omaha. They're not good. They're playing a team that's a little better than them, but getting 8 points here. I knew some people who went to this school. It's not that far from where I was, but some Summit League, I believe. Nebraska Omaha, the Mavericks, which is actually a good nickname. Getting them at 8.5. I'm looking again. These numbers are still available right now. And yeah, Mudhole says it's 3 hours to Michigan. Well, I'm actually looking at a 10-hour drive to Colorado to sign up for some WinBet, but we should hit that again before we go into football. The risk-free bet, that's what you can get if you can find your way into one of those 2 states or eventually Michigan here. $500 risk-free bet. We will kind of touch on this when we get into football because there's some ways to use this to your advantage. And again, we talked about this numerous times on here and the deep dive. If you send us your link or your proof that you placed a bet and hit me with a screenshot, just I need your size and your address, I'll send you a free hoodie. So free hoodies to be had. And Alex, with that, talk about some strategy on using a free bet.
Yeah, we've you have an opportunity here to place what is effectively a free wager, right? No matter what you wager up to $500, you're going to get that money back in credit. If you're somebody that is a listener to this show or just as a gambler in general, you probably shouldn't have any problem working through that rollover. Again, the commitments there are really lax, frankly, which is to our advantage. You only have to bet the money once. I think 1x rollover to get it back. And I think you have like 2 or 3 weeks to get through that. So what you want to try to do in these situations is, and, credit to our buddy, Captain Jack, he did a great video on this. You want to try to attack these opportunities by looking for underdogs, looking for things with really, really big odds, because when you have a chance to take a swing for free, I know that, the risk averse person inside of you goes, all right, well, I'll just take that risk-free bet on something that's a guaranteed winner. Worst case, I get my money back. It's a free bet, right? So I shouldn't really be too worried about trying to make a ton on the free bet. But you want to try to put this on something that, again, is a big underdog long-term as you continue to use more and more of these. And if you live in a regulated state, you get a bunch of opportunities like this. Now, this is a particularly good one. But you'll have other opportunities for risk-free bets. So you will get a chance to do this again. So as you start to looking at this, the most plus EV move you can make, frankly, is to look for some big numbers. So if you're in the mood for something like that with some big numbers, we have some great opportunities this weekend. A market like First Touchdown Scorer offers some really nice opportunities to attack some pretty big numbers. So we're going to go through each of the games here this weekend and talk about the touchdown scores for each one. And maybe that's a great opportunity to use your risk-free bet. What do you think, Andy, before we jump into that?
I do. Yeah. Let's just go straight down the board. Maybe we can mention a little bit about each game and then talk about your the bets these are ones you've already made.
Yep. Again, first touchdown scorer here, looking at Buffalo versus Indianapolis. I'm sure if you guys have listened to the show or watched before, you know that I tend to focus on quarterbacks, tight ends, and then defense and special teams. With some of these markets, the defense and special teams prices look really tight to me this week. If I add any, we'll be sure to tweet it out at Brown Bag Bets. And of course, you can follow me on BetSperts. I'll do a little post there with some of these. You can find me, Alex Christensen, with no space. So Buffalo, Indianapolis, we'll start here. These are two teams that give up a lot of touchdowns to quarterbacks. Actually, Buffalo is second in the league in touchdowns given up to quarterbacks, and Indianapolis here is tied, it looks like, for 10th or 11th. So two nice opportunities here. Josh Allen is someone that always is a threat to score a rushing touchdown, and this is kind of a nice price on him. 9-1 is a little better than what I'm used to seeing every week. These get as low as 6, 7, 8-1. I like 9-1. I wouldn't really play it much lower than this. Maybe a plus 850 if you have it's okay. And then the second price is one that I'm sure is going to maybe going to get you to roll your eyes here a little bit, but Phil Rivers at 100-1.
Still too big.
And not somebody that runs, but if you go back through, he does get a couple rushing touchdowns every year, even though this year's been a little different, and it's the playoffs, and they're playing against a team in the Bills that, again, give up the second most touchdowns to quarterbacks. So if we get a chance here on the goal line, fourth, goal and 1, goal and 2, I think Frank Reich is going to try something here, and we might get a chance to see Rivers run it in. So more of a price play than anything else, but like the matchup here. So we'll go Josh Allen 9-1 and Phil Rivers 100-1.
Yeah, and I did bet this game. I took some Buffalo -6.5, so I'm interested probably in Allen getting it, but it feels a lot better. Some of these games where I bet these first touchdown props, if you end up hitting one of them and it's the team you bet against, it doesn't hurt as bad. Like, I made a little money back. So, all right, that is Sunday, right? Like, or the Saturday noon game, isn't it?
Saturday, yeah. I think we got the 3 Saturday games, then the 3
We
Sunday
put them in
games.
order, I feel like. All
We
right,
did.
Rams, Seattle. This is the one we're waiting to see a little more on the quarterback situation, but
Yeah, this
maybe
one
that's why
is
we're getting a little value here on Goff.
yeah, I think so. It's I placed the Wilson bet. I'm going to do a little more research this afternoon. These numbers don't move a lot because these are kind of a smaller derivative market. They're a little slower to react to some news. So if it does start to be more serious whispers that Goff might be out or might be in, I'm going to try to look at this. But at 30-1, this is great value. And same thing for Wilson here at 28-1. As you start to look at it, again, two teams that are in the top half of the league. Actually, they're both top 10 in terms of giving up rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks. This was another spot where I also looked at tight ends, but these teams are pretty unique in that these are two of the teams that really don't have one tight end. When you look at the Rams, Higbee and Everett split up a lot of shares. Seattle has like 27 tight ends, as near as I can tell. They all split the ball up. So it makes it really hard to attack that market, because if you're going to try to go through and pick all the tight ends, you end up with 5 or 6 names, and that's just too much. At that point, you're just soaking up too much juice, basically, in a market like this. You could also try, if you wanted to cherry pick or throw a dart and pick the right tight end. If you're right, you'll feel really smart. If you're wrong, you'll feel nuts. So for me, the best, discretion is the better part of valor here. So I'm going to pass on the tight ends, although I think there probably would be some value there normally. And again, look at the quarterbacks. Russell Wilson is somebody that likes to run. Goff as somebody that has no problem running the ball. And, Russell Wilson, again, is, I think, given the defense the Rams are going to play, probably have an opportunity or two here to run it in as they get closer to the goal line. And we know Sean McVay's creative. So if he's been saving any sort of goofy quarterback plays, it's going to happen at some point in these playoffs. And I like both of these prices again on the quarterbacks here.
I'm gonna put myself back. I hate being off screen this long. I'm putting myself back in. I'm making the promo bigger, or the slide bigger. So Tampa Bay, Washington, which is somehow, some way, our primetime game on Saturday night. We're going to get Washington. I didn't even put these in the right order. Usually I put the smaller odds up first, but these are both pretty close. You've talked tight ends. This is a game where, I've looked at this one. I haven't been able to make sense of this. I don't have any skin in this one, but what do you got on Gronk?
Yeah, again, another game here where I start to look at some of the matchups here. The weaknesses against both these defenses come at the tight end spot. So really like these numbers too. As I started to look through, Gronkowski at plus 1050 seems to be a pretty solid number. Those have actually been dropping like a rock all season. Those were like 15-1, 16-1 in the early weeks, and down as low as 8 or 9-1. So happy to get him at 10. And then Logan Thomas, the tight end for Washington. I see you've got 10-1 here. I think you can actually get like a 12-1 or something a little bit better. I'm trying to remember exactly what number I had. Was it 15?
It says 15-1 on the screen.
Oh, that's good then. Let me just double check.
I goofed up.
I know.
That's why I
wait a
checked,
minute.
because I thought I had it better. But yeah, Logan.
It was 15-1 was the price I found on Logan Thomas. Again, another nice number here, especially given the matchup. I've seen him as low as 10 to 12-1 the last few weeks. So there's a 15-1 out there. Grab that. Both of these defenses have been exploited all season at the tight end position. So let's grab some nice numbers here and hope we get a tight end for our first score. And
hopefully that game isn't awful. That's we've had fun with the NFC East all year, and my biggest worry is this game, the playoff game, better not be just a farce. So on to Sunday, our noon game is a rematch from playoffs past, Baltimore at Tennessee. Baltimore, again, a rematch from this year, even overtime game earlier in the season, and more of what you love, tight ends,
the bread and the butter, folks.
Prices.
Yeah, it's as you start to go through and look at some of these, if you want to try to break this market down yourself, what you'll find a lot of times is the running backs and wide receivers are very overpriced. One of the nice ways to do it is try to take a look at the anytime touchdown scorer market and sort of compare it to this. And what you'll find out a lot of times is the multiple basically that they use for running backs and wide receivers is much lower. As I start to go through and look at some data and stuff, I don't find that running backs and wide receivers necessarily score more first than they do throughout the game. So a lot of the value here, again, as I start to look through it, I see it in quarterbacks and tight ends. And just another spot here, Tennessee, very vulnerable to the tight end. Happy to grab Mark Andrews here, the tight end for Baltimore at 11-1. On the other side of the ball, Baltimore, pretty solid defense overall, actually, in terms of giving up touchdowns, but very susceptible to quarterbacks. Tannehill's a sneaky athlete and someone that does actually run in. I think he's got a couple touchdowns already this year. Happy to grab both of these again at pretty nice numbers. Andrews has been low as 8 and 9 during the season, so 11-1 is pretty solid.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm probably going to place all these because I feel like I just don't have much action this weekend. I'm not saying like, oh, I need action, I'm some junkie, but I usually have more bets and there are fewer games, so I'll probably be on a lot of these. This one you had a few. Chicago, New Orleans, another game I hope that just doesn't suck. I'll talk about that a little later as far as why I'm worried about.
Chicago tied for second in giving up touchdowns to tight ends. New Orleans tied for third, giving up touchdowns to tight ends. Now, Chicago is kind of a tricky situation, similar to what we talked about with Seattle and Los Angeles. Graham was really the tight end to start the season, but the last few weeks here, Komet has had more targets from Trubisky, is seeming to get some more run here. And I know that I talked against the idea of putting in a lot of players here, but a 20-1 and 18-1, I'm happy to grab the two of them and kind of put them together. It ends up effectively being, I think, about 8-1 or 9-1 if you Dutch them. And then Jared Cook, somebody that, again, I'm on just about every single week here on this market. Anytime that you can get him at better than 12-1, 11-1, I'm happy to jump on board. So 13-1 here. Chicago, very susceptible to the tight end as well. As I mentioned, tied for second, giving up touchdowns. So tight ends, I think, is a spot to look here. I'm happy to grab all three of these at these numbers.
And finally, our nightcap. A lot of rematches. In fact, the third time these ones will play. Pittsburgh, Cleveland. You didn't find a lot you loved. I think I probably can. I can do it for you. Well, there's so many receivers for Pittsburgh, and all the prices are going to suck for that. Big Ben isn't running one in, and who knows what's going on for Cleveland because they have the Rona. So I guess taking it easy on this game makes a lot of sense, huh?
That's exactly what I was going to talk about. You start to look at it. Cleveland's pretty solid against quarterbacks. Big Ben's not big into running. Happy to pass there. Cleveland gives up a bunch of touchdowns to wide receivers. Pittsburgh has 3 to 4 guys at this point that catch the first touchdown. The big three are all 8 or 9-1. You put them together, it's just an absolute mess. We have no idea what's happening in Cleveland. Anybody could play, anybody could not play. We don't even know who's coaching. So you got to basically cross everybody out there. That leaves us with Mr. Ebron at 13-1. Again, Cleveland, very susceptible to touchdowns from tight ends. Pittsburgh, Big Ben looks for him when it gets close to the red zone. So happy to grab him at 13-1.
I dig it. And then this is something I've been working on. I think I might have more of these. I may blog about this or just put some posts out on Twitter and bet spurts, but I found a few of these I liked, and here's just a mishmatch of everything I've put together. Most passing yards. These markets, you're going to find markets for most passing yards, most rushing yards, receiving. There'll be other ones. I mean, if you look around, there's a ton of fun markets. We're gonna reiterate exactly what I'm saying right now when we get in Monday. And spoiler alert, we will have a special guest on Monday to get us through some props for the national title game. It's similar to the Super Bowl. If you bet college props or props in the NFL or football in general, you'll see these standalone games have bigger menus. The national title game has a massive menu, and a massive menu leads to some of the props being bad price. So you'll find some value in these huge slates. I think you can find some value even in these wildcard props. I have Breeze at 10-1. The people that are eating up the market here are going to be your Brady, your Josh Allen, your Ben Roethlisberger. It's the same as anything. It's like the starting running backs are eating up most of the market for first touchdown score. Those guys are going to be eating this up. I saw what Rodgers was able to do against the Bears. I think the Bears defense might be a little overrated at this point, just based on all the teams they played earlier in the stretch down the season, playing the Jags, playing the Vikings, playing some of these bad teams, or teams that just didn't have the offense that what we could see out of out of even Noodle Arm Breeze. And just 10-1 is a bit much for me. He should be closer to some of the favorites. He is fourth favorite, but putting him in the same as, Phillip Rivers and essentially Russell Wilson, I thought that was wrong based on what their offense has been known to do. In the same vein, I'm not excited about these because we could have Wolford, we could have Goff, we could have bad Goff. It's road Goff. Road Goff can be bad Goff, but Woods and Kupp to be leading in the receiving yards at 20, 25-1 was too high for me. Again, this is one where like Diggs, who is playing, I'm sure he'll play, but he's banged up. Allen Robinson, those are your high end guys. I don't know if Allen Robinson's going to get it going against a decent defense. I don't know if Diggs is going to be healthy. Woods and Kupp each have had blow up games. They each have like 130 targets on the season. They've each had a like 130, 140 yard game. These numbers are just massive in my mind. I'm going to put some small flyers on either one of these because I don't know if I love Seattle's defense down the stretch, and I think McVay could scheme something up, and one of these guys could blow up for a number like that. Taylor 7-1. That's Jonathan Taylor in rushing yards. You don't have to guess real quick who's going to eat up a big chunk of that market. Derrick Henry is minus money. He's minus 150 to lead the weekend in rushing yards. That's Chubb absurd. Is up there as well, and I get why Chubb is where he is based on who he's facing and how that may go. But Jonathan Taylor, third favorite at 7-1. I think we could see a lot of mismatches on that offensive line versus the D line there. Even though I bet the Bills to win and cover, I think Taylor will get lots of opportunities and could end up basically if Henry has an off day, it's a toss up between like four guys. And I think Taylor has the best matchup for this. And then highest scoring, I didn't have a hot take on. Highest scoring, it's like Ravens, Bills, Saints, Bucks. They're all kind of right around there. I don't really have a differentiating factor, but lowest scoring, it's going to be basically Washington and Chicago eating up a lot of that. And they threw the Rams not too far into third place. And I actually I think what we saw last week, what we saw in the first matchup with the Rams, we could see more of the same. Basically, this is a bet on the Rams defense with a parlay that the Bears and the football team get some garbage points because those two teams will need to get to, 17 points or something along those. Maybe not. Maybe Seattle really lays an egg, but this is another one where I make this a bit of value. I don't think playing likely the best defense that's left in the playoffs, you should be 12-1, even with Russell Wilson and DK in them. So just the way they've matched up over the years, it's been low scoring affairs in the first two matchups here. So 12-1 on Seattle, I like quite a bit.
Yeah, I like that.
Those are all numbers I pulled this morning. You can find all those.
Yeah, I see those. I'm looking at a couple of them right now. The only team that I had for most points scored was, did you like the Titans at all at like 9-1? It feels like it might just be a better way of betting the Titans. Like if you think the Titans are going to beat the Ravens, just take a little bit of that.
I did see a 10-1 on the Titans. That'd be the only flyer, I guess, there. But otherwise, I like these a lot. And those are your basketball plays. A couple unders. Charlotte, New Orleans, and the Chargers and Golden State Warriors. I'm just going to say Chargers now because that's what that abbreviation is. My basketball plays back on track from yesterday. Feeling good, feeling strong. My mind is back in the right place. I was driving home last night from, I did the hockey deep dive with Andy McNeil and Drew, and I was driving home and my Eastern Kentucky was down by 5. They were a 3-point favorite. Both the 4-point underdogs were down by like 17 and 11 in the second half. And I just threw my phone on the driver or the passenger side seat. I'm like, whatever, we're done. I'm like, if I don't win 1 out of 3, I might just take the weekend off of basketball to get my head right. So it felt good to get some comebacks. It felt good to get back, variance bouncing my way a little. And this is it for the week, guys. This is it. We won't look for some. We're going to throw together some written stuff over on the website, on the app, on the BetSports app, kind of outlining some of our thoughts for the NFL weekend. You can find that if you have the app, it'll be right under blogs, or if you're on the email list on the subscribing to that. Otherwise, best of luck with all your bets. And again, if you do take advantage of the win free bet, it should take advantage on a long shot. There's no value taking a $500 free bet and putting it on minus 200 because you're taking a free shot at something you think you have value. So if you have any questions on that, obviously DMs, hit us on Twitter or bother Alex.
That's right, folks. Again, you can find us on Twitter at Brown Bag Bets. We'd like a rating or review if you're listening to this on podcast. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube and have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.